Hello, welcome to this video where we will still be tackling about Adlerian therapy. I am Maria Janeline G. Dagamak, your reporter for this discussion. In this video, we will be learning about therapeutic techniques and procedures, areas of application for Adlerian theory, Adlerian therapy from a multicultural perspective, and lastly, the summary and evaluation of Adlerian approach. Let's begin.
Therapeutic techniques and procedures. Adlerian counseling is structured around four central objectives that correspond to the four phases of the therapeutic process. The phases that will be discussed later were incorporated by Drakers in the year 1997 into what he called minor psychotherapy in the context and service of holistic medicine. His approach to therapy has been elaborated in what is now called Adlerian Brief Therapy or ABT. Now let's discuss the four phases of Adlerian counseling. Phase 1 is to establish the proper therapeutic relationship. Adlerian client-therapist relationship is based on a deep sense of caring, involvement, and friendship. A progressive therapy is possible only when client and therapist goals aligned, thus client recognizes his issues and is willing to explore and change. Adlerian therapists do not start with the client's problem. Instead, they first establish a good relationship with them. In other words, they focus initially on the person and not on the problem. Here, therapists help clients become aware of their assets and strengths rather than continually with their deficits and liabilities. A positive relationship is created by listening, responding, demonstrating respect for clients' capacity to understand purpose and seek change, and exhibiting faith, hope, and caring. During the therapy, clients typically diminish a sense of self-worth and self-respect, lack faith in their ability to cope with the tasks of life, and fortunately, therapists here will provide support that serves as an antidote to their despair and discouragement. But how does the initial phase works? Adlerians pay more attention to the subjective experiences of the client than they do to using techniques. They fit their techniques to the need of each client, such as listening with empathy, following the subjective experience of the client, identifying and clarifying goals, and suggesting initial hunches about purpose in client symptoms and actions. They also provide structure and assist clients to define personal goals, conduct psychological assessments, and offer interpretations. Effective counseling occurs, first, when the therapist provides the client a wide-eyed vision of the world in order to help him or her see things differently in the future, and second, when the client is willing to explore and change and more likely to focus on what he or she wants from treatment and set mental health objectives if he or she feels truly understood and appreciated. Phase 2 is to explore the individual psychological dynamics, and this is where an assessment takes place. This assessment phase aims to help the therapist to get a deeper understanding of the client's lifestyle, social, and cultural context. Aside from that, this builds the client's awareness of the various contemporary and historical forces that have shaped his or her personality and eventuated in life problems. Rather than merely generating information, this assessment gives active, process-oriented interventions that can lead to change. In other words, therapists assess clients' history and beliefs that focus on nuances a client says during interviews, family constellation, and early recollection. More so, Adlerian practitioners do not attempt to fit clients into a preconceived model. Instead, they allow salient cultural identity concepts to emerge in the therapy process, and these issues are then addressed. Drakers identified two interview forms from Phase 2. First is the subjective interview. Here, the counselor helps the client to tell their story as completely as possible. This is facilitated by empathetic listening and responding, followed by a sense of wonder, fascination, and interest. What the client says will spark an interest in the counselor and lead to the next most significant question about the client. Throughout this phase, the Adlerian counselor is listening for clues to the purposive aspects of the client's coping and approaches to life. Thus, at the end of this part of the interview, Adlerian brief therapists ask, "Is there anything else you think I should know to understand you and your concerns?" Adlerians gained from what Drakers called the question, which is an initial assessment to know the symptoms or difficulties served in a person's life. A sample question to end a subjective interview can go like this: How would your life be different? And what would you be doing differently if you did not have this symptom or problem? Adlerians use this kind of question to help with differential diagnosis. The second interview form from phase 2 is called the objective interview. This seeks to know information about how problems in the client's life began, any precipitating events, a medical history, a social history, the reasons why the client chose therapy at this time, the person's coping with life tasks, and a lifestyle assessment. Counselors here become lifestyle investigator. Lifestyle assessment investigates the person's family constellations and early childhood history. Counselors also interpret the person's early memories, seeking to understand the meaning that he or she has attached to life experiences. They operate on the assumption that it is the interpretations people develop about themselves, others, the world, and life that govern what they do. Lifestyle assessment seeks to develop a holistic narrative of the person's life to make sense of the way the person copes with life tasks and to uncover the private interpretations and logic involved in that coping. For example, Jenny lived in a critical environment and now believed she must be perfect to avoid failure. In her case, the assessment process will highlight the restricted living that flows from this perspective. Now let's talk about the family constellation. The family of origin is considered by Adler as central to individual personality. He suggested that it was through the family constellation that each person forms his or her unique view of self, others, and life. Adlerian assessment relies heavily on an exploration of the client's family constellation or family atmosphere, the number and type of family members, the quality of relationships that exist between them, birth order, parental relationship, and family values, and extended family and culture. Family constellation represents the family's structural organization and cast of characters. The aim of this is to understand who lived with the client's family of origin during most of the client's years and to understand the myriad patterns of relationships that exist between family members. Adler also considered psychological birth order to be a strong contributor to style of life. Questions to be explored during the assessment are the following: Who was the favorite child? What was your father's relationship with the children? Your mother's? Which child was most like your father? Your mother? In what respects? Who among the siblings was most different from you? In what ways? Who among the siblings was most like you? In what ways? What were you like as a child? How did your parents get along? In what did they both agree? How did they handle disagreements? How did they discipline the children? It is important to note that investigation of family constellation is more comprehensive than these few questions. However, these give an idea of the type of information the counselor is seeking. Now let's proceed to early recollection, or what we called as the story of our life. This is the most direct and useful method in understanding clients' fictional life goals and the laws of movement that govern their attitudes and responses. Early recollections are one-time occurrences usually before the age of 9, pictured by the client in clear detail during assessment. Early recollections are a series of small mysteries that can be woven together into a tapestry that leads to an understanding of how we view ourselves, how we see the world, what our life goals are, what motivates us, what we value and believe in, and what we anticipate for in our future. Early memories cast light on the story of our life because they represent metaphors for our current views. From the thousands of experiences we have before the age of 9, we tend to remember only 6 to 12 memories. By understanding why we retain these memories and what they tell us about how we see ourselves, others, and life in the present, it is possible to get a clear sense of our mistaken notions, present attitudes, social interests, and possible future behavior. Early recollections are specific instances that clients tell the therapist, and they are very useful in understanding those who are sharing a story. Exploring this involves discovering how mistaken notions based on faulty goals and values continue to create problems in a client's life. The following questions may be used by therapists to tap recollections. I would like to hear about your early memories. Think back to when you were very young, as early as you can remember, and tell me something that happened one time. Therapists might also ask about what part stands out to you. What was the most vivid part of your early memory? If you played the whole memory like a movie and stopped it at one frame, what would be happening? Putting yourself in that moment, what are you feeling? What's your reaction? Adlerian therapists use early recollections as a projective technique to assess the client's convictions about self, others' life and ethics, stance in relation to the counseling session and the counseling relationship, coping patterns and strengths, assets, and interfering ideas. The following questions may also be used to interpret early recollections. What part does the client take in the memory? Is the client an observer or a participant? Who else is in the memory? What position do others take in relation to the client? What are the dominant themes and overall patterns of the memories? What feelings are expressed in the memories? Why does the client choose to remember this event? And what is the client trying to convey? Now let's discuss about the integration and summary of Phase 2. Integrated summaries of data are developed from both forms of interview and are going to be presented to client for discussion. This may be a narrative summary of the person's subjective experience and life story, a summary of family constellation and developmental data, a summary of early recollections, personal strengths or assets, and interfering ideas, or a summary of coping strategies. Toward the conclusion of the assessment phase of therapy, an Adlerian becomes able to identify a client's basic mistakes. Mossack, in the year 1995, identified 5 examples of basic mistakes. First is overgeneralization. There is no fairness in the world, or I'm always the one who has to take care of everything. Second is false or impossible goals. I have to be the boss to be acceptable, or others should always take care of my needs. Third is misperceptions of life and life's demands. The world is against me, or the world is my oyster. Fourth is denial of one's basic worth. I totally suck, or no one could ever love me. And fifth, faulty values. It is a set of values at odds with social interest. I must win and be the best no matter how much it hurts others. It is crucial to note that Adlerian theory assists clients to identify and examine some of their common fears. These fears include being imperfect, being vulnerable, being disapproved of, and suffering from past regrets. Phase 3 is to encourage self-understanding and insight. Therapists in this phase interpret the findings of the assessment that promotes self-understanding and insight. Adlerians believed that almost everything in human life has a purpose. Mossack and Maniaci in the year 2011 defined insight as an understanding translated into constructive action. Adlerians refers insight as an understanding of the motivations that operate in a client's life. It is a special form of awareness that facilitates a meaningful understanding within the therapeutic relationship and acts as a foundation for change. Also, they believed that self-understanding is only possible when hidden purposes and goals of behavior are made conscious. Disclosure and well-timed interpretations are techniques that facilitate the process of gaining insight. Adlerian interpretations are suggestions presented tentatively in the form of open-ended questions that can be explored in the sessions. They are hunches or guesses, and they often stated as, "I could be wrong, but I am wondering if." Could it be that? Or is it possible that? Because interpretations are presented in this manner, clients are not led to defend themselves. Instead, they feel free to discuss and even argue with the counselor's hunches and impressions. With this process, both the counselor and the client eventually come to understand the client's motivations, fictional goals, factors contributing to the maintenance of the problem, and what the client can do to correct the self-defeating patterns. Furthermore, the counselor here helps the client to understand the limitations of the style of life the client has chosen. Phase 4 is to reorient and re-educate the client. This is an action-oriented phase and the final phase of Adlerian therapy that involves helping clients to reorient and recommit themselves towards the healthy fulfillment of life tasks. Clients are both encouraged and challenged to develop the courage to take risks and make changes in their life so that they can choose to adopt a new style of life based on the insights they gained in the earlier phases of therapy. Reorientation involves shifting rules of interaction, process, and motivation. These shifts are facilitated through changes in awareness, which often occur during the therapy session and which are transformed into action outside of the therapy office. In other words, reorientation is putting insights into practice. In some cases, significant changes are needed if clients are to overcome discouragement and if clients are to find a place for themselves in this life. Often, clients need to be reoriented toward the useful side of life. The useful side of life is characterized by a sense of belonging and being valued, having an interest in others and their welfare, courage, the acceptance of imperfection, confidence, a sense of humor, a willingness to contribute, and an outgoing friendliness. The useless side of life is characterized by self absorption, withdrawal from life tasks, self protection, and acts against one's fellow human beings. Note that people acting on the useless side of life become less functional and are more susceptible to psychopathology. Adlerian therapy stands in opposition to self depreciation, isolation, and retreat, and it seeks to help clients gain courage and to connect to strengths within themselves, to others, and to life. Throughout this phase, no intervention is more important than encouragement. Now let's talk about the encouragement process. Encouragement is central to Adlerian therapy. To encourage means to give someone support, confidence, and hope. Encouragement is not just mere words said to uplift, but an act of showing faith in people, valuing them for who they are, and expecting them to assume responsibility for their own lives by inspiring them towards a conviction that they themselves are the key to the solution to their problems, and by helping them establish goals, attitudes, and competencies needed to cope with life's experiences. For these reasons, encouragement is believed to be the most powerful method available for changing a person's beliefs, for it helps clients build self-confidence and stimulates courage. It is important to note that encouragement is not just stimulation of positivity, but also acknowledgement of reality, and that is, life can be difficult at times, which is why focusing on their resources and strengths and instilling a sense of faith in clients that they are capable of making changes in their lives are crucial. Discouragement is believed to be the basic condition that prevents people from functioning, and oftentimes clients come into therapy feeling this way. Therefore, it is the counselor's main task to help clients recognize their positive qualities and strengths. This is where encouragement, the antidote for discouragement, comes into play. As a part of the encouragement process, Adlerian sees a variety of relational, cognitive, behavioral, emotional, and experiential techniques to help clients identify and challenge self-defeating cognitions, generate perceptual alternatives, and make use of assets, strengths, and resources. Furthermore, the form or manner of encouragement applied in therapy is dependent on the phase of the counseling process. In the relationship phase, encouragement results from the mutual respect the counselor seeks to foster. For example,
I almost didn't come.
but you did.
Yes, but I just don't know. Maybe it would have been better just to end it all, not even bother.
So you are in a lot of pain, even thinking about ending it all, but still you came. That took a lot of courage. How did you manage to summon that courage and then act on it? In the assessment phase, in which personal strengths are eliminated, clients are encouraged to recognize that they are in charge of their own lives and can make different choices based on new understandings. And during reorientation, encouragement comes when new possibilities are generated and when clients are acknowledged and affirmed for taking positive steps to change their lives for the better. For example, let me see if I understand this. You were in a familiar family setting. Your father was berating you about a minor difference of opinion, really trying to push your buttons, and you managed not only to stay calm, but also offered to help him sort some materials in his office. You must feel so proud of yourself, triumphant even. What a transformation of your normal interactions!
Yes, and I even walked away feeling I had made a difference in his life. I did not lose my temper. I did not strike back. I actually just heard him in a different way, knew he needed to feel right and important, and when I let that happen, everything changed between us.
You even know the steps that got you there.
Yes, I do.
Achieving a change in long held family patterns is one of the hardest things to attain. You have a right to feel delighted. One part under the encouragement process is the change in the search for new possibilities. It is during the reorientation phase in which clients reflect on their maladaptive core convictions and relational patterns and enact different ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. To do so, clients are both encouraged to act as if they were the people they want to be. This is to challenge self limiting assumptions and ask to catch themselves in the process of repeating old patterns that have led to ineffective behavior. It is crucial to understand that commitment is an essential part of reorientation. Clients want and hope to change must be accompanied with willingness to take active role in their everyday life, either by setting tasks for themselves or doing something specific about their problems. In this way, clients translate their new insights into concrete actions. This action oriented phase is a time where the counselor must provide a great deal of support and encouragement to the clients so that they can generate their best alternatives to solve their problems and come up with new possibilities that will promote positivity and courage for change. Another part under the encouragement process is making a difference. Adlerian counselors seek to make a difference in the lives of their clients, either a change in attitude, behavior, or perception. To accomplish this goal, different techniques are utilized: immediacy, advice, humor, silence, paradoxical intention, acting as if, spitting in the client's soup, catching oneself, the push button technique, externalization, reauthoring, avoiding the traps, confrontation, use of stories and fables, early recollection analysis, lifestyle assessment, encouraging, task setting, and commitment, giving homework, and terminating and summarizing have all been used. At this point, we will be discussing about the areas of application of Adlerian theory. Adler anticipated the future direction of the helping professions by calling upon therapists to become social activists and by addressing the prevention and remediation of social conditions that were contrary to social interest and resulted in human problems. Adler's ideas and principles constituted a popular theory known as individual psychology, which is the forerunner of many other approaches to education, counseling, and therapy today. Application to education. Because of Adler's keen interest to remedy faulty lifestyles of school children, he advocated for schools to take an active role in developing social skills and character education among the students. Adler believed that children make choices and are self-determiners of their own style of life. Thus, the behavior of children is based on their choices, and inappropriate behavior results from making the wrong choices. Self-defeating behavior occurs when children choose either one of the four goals of misbehavior to fulfill their needs and in their interactions with others. These four goals of misbehavior are attention seeking, power seeking, revenge seeking, and inadequacy or assumed disability. Therefore, it is the school counselor's responsibility to help children to develop a positive lifestyle and social interest by meeting the child's disruptive behavior with corrective responses and through encouragement and logical consequences that are related, respectful, and reasonable. With these ways to prevent and correct basic mistakes of children, one can promote social interest and mental health among them. Application to parent education. Parent education is meant to help parents to bring up their children to be psychologically healthy personalities with social interest and with fewer psychological problems. This can only be done when parents know how to recognize the mistaken goals of their children and to guide them toward more productive behavior by applying logical and natural consequences. Natural consequences are unplanned outcomes that a child experiences as a result of his or her behavior. Therefore, if you oversleep in the morning, you may miss the school bus and have to walk to school. Logical consequences, which are used more intentionally in school settings, are established through rules or policies. These rules are fair, clear, and consistent statements of outcomes that will occur as a result of a child's behavior. Not only does parent education aims to help children be psychologically healthy individuals, but it also seeks to improve the relationship between parents and children. Application to couples counseling. Adlerian therapy with couples is designed to assess couples' beliefs and behaviors while educating them to meet their relational goals using new and more effective ways or procedures. An approach developed by Charles Howes within an Adlerian brief therapy model addresses the compatibility of lifestyles, looks at the early recollections of the marriage and each partner's relationship to a broad set of life tasks, including occupation, social relationships, intimate relationships, spirituality, self-care, and self-worth. To achieve the goals of brief couples therapy, Adlerians subscribe to the following ways. They foster social interest, assist couples in decreasing feelings of inferiority and overcoming discouragement, help couples modify their views and goals, help couples to feel a sense of quality in their relationships, and provide skill building opportunities. Adlerians will sometimes see clients as a couple, sometimes individually, and then alternately as a couple and as individuals. Through this, therapists aim to create solutions for problems, increase choices of couples, and help clients discover and use their individual and collective resources. Application to family counseling. The basic goal of Adlerian family counseling is to facilitate the improvement of parent-child relationships and to enhance the relationships within the family. Adler's emphasis on family constellation, holism, and the therapist's freedom to improvise contributed to the foundation of the family therapy perspective. During the therapeutic process, Adlerians seek to increase awareness of the interaction of the individuals within the family system by focusing on the family atmosphere, the family constellation, and the interactive goals of each member. The family atmosphere, which influences children as they grow up, is the climate characterizing the relationship between the parents and their attitudes toward life, gender roles, decision making, competition, cooperation, dealing with conflict, responsibility, and so forth. Application to group counseling. The rationale for Adlerian group counseling is based on the premise that our problems are mainly of a social nature. The group provides the social context in which members can develop a sense of belonging, social connectedness, and community. Group counseling is particularly helpful in promoting social interest because it is through this process that group participants come to see that many of their problems are interpersonal in nature, that their behavior has social meaning, and that their goals can be best understood in the framework of social purposes. A core therapeutic factor is the role of altruism, which is the process of helping others in the group. The process of developing group cohesion parallels social interest, that is, promoting the social welfare of the group, and community feeling, that is, feeling connected and closer to the group itself. These two are the primary goals of Adlerian therapy. Now let's talk about Adlerian therapy from a multicultural perspective. First, we will discuss about the strengths from a diversity perspective. Adlerian theory addressed social equality issues and social embeddedness of humans long before multiculturalism assumed central importance in the profession. The importance of the cultural context, the emphasis on health as opposed to pathology, a holistic perspective on life, the value of understanding individuals in terms of their core goals and purposes, the ability to exercise freedom within the context of societal constraints, and the focus on prevention and the development of a proactive approach in dealing with problems are some of Adler's notions that have implications toward multiculturalism that have as much or more relevance today as they did during Adler's time. Although the Adlerian approach is called individual psychology, its focus is on the person in a social context. The therapeutic process is grounded within a client's culture and worldview rather than attempting to fit clients into preconceived models. Therefore, clients are encouraged to define themselves within their social environments. Adlerian therapy is easily adaptable to cultural values that emphasize community since it tends to focus on cooperation and socially oriented values as opposed to competitive and individualistic values. Furthermore, Adlerian theory holds a number of characteristics that are congruent with the values of many racial, cultural, and ethnic groups, including the emphasis on understanding the individual in a familial and social-cultural context, the role of social interest in contributing to others, and the focus on belonging and the collective spirit. Instead of focusing on any particular set of procedures, Adlerian practitioners are conscious of the value of fitting their techniques to each client's situation. One of the most used methods by therapists who subscribe to Adlerian therapy is lifestyle assessment. This is an assessment heavily focused on the structure and dynamics within the client's family. It should be noted that Adlerians investigate culture in much the same way that they approach birth order and family atmosphere. Culture provides therapists a way of grasping the subjective and experiential perspective of an individual since it is a background of values, history, convictions, beliefs, customs, and expectations that must be addressed by the individual. Now let's talk about the shortcomings of Adlerian therapy from a diversity perspective. The Adlerian approach tends to focus on the self as the locus of change and responsibility, and because other cultures have different conceptions, this primary emphasis on changing the autonomous self may be problematic for many clients. Also, for people brought up in extended family contexts, some of the assumptions about the Western nuclear family which are built into the Adlerian concepts of birth order and family constellation may be less relevant or at least may need to be reconfigured. Adlerian theory has some potential drawbacks for clients from those cultures who are not interested in exploring past childhood experiences, early memories, family experiences, and dreams, and also has limited effectiveness with clients who do not understand the purpose of exploring the details of a lifestyle analysis when dealing with life's current problems. Adlerian therapists are not experts in solving other people's problems. This may be a problem, or it may pose some problems to clients who view the counselor as the expert who will provide them with solutions to their problems. Now, to the last main topic, we will be talking about summary and evaluation of Adlerian therapy. First is the summary. Individual psychology assumes that people are motivated by social factors, are responsible for their own thoughts, feelings, and actions, are the creators of their own lives as opposed to being helpless victims, and are impelled by purposes and goals looking more toward the future than back to the past. The basic goal of the Adlerian approach is to help clients identify and change their mistaken beliefs about self, others, and life, and thus to participate more fully in a social world. Adlerian practitioners view clients not as psychologically sick, but as discouraged. And through therapy, the clients are challenged and encouraged to translate their insights into action in the real world. The Adlerian approach provides practitioners a great deal of freedom in working with clients in the following areas: elementary education, consultation groups with teachers, parent education groups, couples and family therapy, and group counseling. The contributions of the Adlerian approach. A strength of the Adlerian approach is its flexibility and its integrative nature. Adlerian therapists are resourceful and flexible in drawing on many methods which can be applied to a diverse range of clients in a variety of settings and formats. Therapists are mainly concerned with doing what is in the best interests of clients rather than squeezing clients into one theoretical framework. Another contribution of the Adlerian approach is that it is suited to brief, time-limited therapy, which focuses in quickly establishing a strong therapeutic alliance, a clear problem focus and goal alignment, rapid assessment and application to treatment, an emphasis on active and directive intervention, a psychoeducational focus, a present and future orientation, a focus on client strengths and abilities, and an optimistic expectation of change, and a time sensitivity that tailors treatment to the unique needs of the client. Furthermore, early recollections are a significant assessment intervention in brief therapy since it minimizes the number of therapy sessions. Bringing a time limitation process to therapy conveys to clients the expectation that change will occur in a short period of time. For this very reason, Beater and Nicol in the year 2000 identify 5 characteristics that form the basis for an integrative framework in brief therapy. These are time limitation, focus, counselor directiveness, symptoms as solutions, and the assignment of behavioral tasks. Because there is no assurance that a future session will occur, brief therapists tend to ask themselves this question: if I had only one session to be useful in this person's life, what would I want to accomplish? One of Adler's most important contributions was his influence on other therapy systems. Many of his basic ideas have found their way into most of the other psychological schools, a few of which include existential therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, rational emotive behavior therapy, reality therapy, solution focused therapy, and family therapy. Adlerian's basic premise is that if clients can change their thinking, then they can change their feelings and behavior. Now let's talk about limitations and criticisms of the Adlerian approach. Because Adler plays practicing and teaching before organizing and presenting a well-defined and systematic theory, his written presentations are often difficult to follow, and many of them are transcripts of lectures he gave. Also, many of Adler's ideas are vague in general, which makes it difficult to conduct research on some concepts. Although he was brilliant in many ways, Adler was not scholarly. For this reason, many people considered his ideas somewhat loose and too simplistic. And that's the end of our discussion. These are our references. Thank you for listening. With your new learnings, we hope that you appreciate the beauty of Adlerian therapy. Have a good day.